I'd like to call to order today, Monday, January 9th, 2023, public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission to order. I already said that. Welcome, everyone. I'm Susan Klausmith. I am the chair of the committee. I'm also an architect. If you're here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation, and your project should be presented in the following order: the site plan, the elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. The staff will then present their staff report, and then we will then ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as your presentation. When coming to the microphone, please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because those 3 minutes go by very quickly. Following the public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal, and then the public hearing will be closed. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the city ordinance, chapter 27 of the city zoning code, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, the Historic Preservation Development Review or HPDRC comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing tonight. Please remember that the ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owners and or agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do silence your cell phones, and I'll ask my fellow commissioners to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
I'm John Prokop. I practice architecture.
I'm Brent Taylor. I'm a building contractor.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Sutton. I'm a registered architect. I also hold the architectural historian chair for this commission.
My name is Dan Myers. I also am a registered architect.
And with us tonight, we have staff, Dennis Fernandez, Alexis Guzman, and attorneys tonight are Kamaria Pettis-Mackel with Dana Crosby Collier. Welcome. And then we do have the minutes from the December 5th and 7th, 2022 hearing dates to approve into the record. Hear a motion for both of those?
I move that this commission accept the meeting minutes for the Architectural Review Commission public hearing for Monday, December 5th, 2022, and for Wednesday, December 7th, 2022, as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
Motion carries. Dennis?
Good evening, Mr. Dennis Fernandez, Architectural Review Historic Preservation Manager. Just briefly, I do have the December 2022 staff approvals to enter into the record. Those have been provided to the clerk as well. And we will be holding our second hearing of the month on Wednesday to deal with the rest of the January 23 application cycle. That would be on January the 11th at 5:30 p.m. I have no other announcements, so I will turn it over to our legal counsel for the conflict of interest and ex parte communication disclosure.
Good evening, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the legal department. Will the commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are on the agenda?
None.
I do not.
Additionally, will the commissioners please state whether or not they've had any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are on the agenda?
I have none.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do not have any continuations this evening, so we can move to the swear-in. Anyone in the audience who's going to be providing testimony or public comment, if you would please stand for the swear-in. Raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be giving today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. And with that, I believe we're ready for our first case. Commissioners, to introduce our first case, which is ARC 22-179. I'll be doing a brief photo essay. The request is for an addition to an accessory structure and renovations to that structure with site improvements. The property is located at 5209 North Branch Avenue in the Seminole Heights Local Historic District. See this subject property in the green from the 1929 Sanborn map.
Can we get the displays up on the dais, please? None of them are on. Sorry, Dennis. Pardon? Now they're all gone. Maybe our displays need to be turned on.
have to use the big ones in the meantime.
I think they just
Okay.
came on.
All right.
Did yours come on? That one just came on. Okay, are we ready to continue?
We can see that one, yeah.
Okay. Once again, the subject property on the 1929 Sanborn map, this is a contributing property in the Seminole Heights Local Historic District. See the property situated on Branch, which faces to the west with Giddens as the side street. From the aerial, make out the structure, the principal structure and the accessory structure in the rear. In the Seminole Heights Historic District, accessory structures do not have contributing status. They're all non-contributing. This is a photo of the front elevation of the principal structure. Moving around to the north, you see that elevation, some of the detailing. In the rear, you can just start to make out the accessory structure. Moving around the structure to the opposite side, that's the south elevation from the rear. This is the abutting property to the south. This is across Giddens to the north. And then across Branch to the west. Looking down Giddens to the west. And in the opposite direction. The accessory structure, it fronts Giddens. See, there's currently a structure that is situated in front of the accessory structure, a carport type structure. The owner will discuss that structure with you. Looking around to the west of the accessory structure, see some of the openings and the existing staircase. This is the rear elevation of the accessory structure. Beyond is an alley. If we're standing in that alley looking down the length of the property, this is the view. It says looking down the alley to the south, and then turning and looking the opposite direction across Giddens. That concludes the photo essay, and I'll ask the owner to come up and make his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Frost, and I'm the owner of the property at Branch. And I'd like to go over the site plan and the proposed changes. Okay, great. Okay, so the site plan is here it shows the structure with the, thank you. Thank you. So it's a primary structure with the addition in the rear, adjoining the alley. As far as the elevations, think of it. Elevations. So here is the elevation, the north elevation on the top, and the south elevation, I'm sorry, the north elevation on the top shows the revised carport. Additionally, there was a carport there, and that's, I run afoul of the city. I took that carport down. It was a aluminum carport, and I put this structure back, but it wasn't in compliance, so that's what I'm trying to do now. So this shows the new carport with the required setbacks from the alley. On the rear, it shows the new deck. Now, there wasn't a deck there, though, so this will be new. So we're moving the entrance of the dwelling from the side to the rear. And unfortunately, it shows that there was a window here, and the window's going to be closed up with siding to match. And I wasn't able to get the revised drawings back in time from the designer, but these new panels are going to be woven in, so they won't be just a box like that. I've done this on the primary structure as well. So all the new structures will be woven in. Okay, moving on. So here's the west elevation. Again, it shows where the existing door is. And now that's going to be blanked off since it's moved to the rear. And again, that siding will be woven in. And then the east elevation, not much difference there to the existing accessory dwelling unit, other than the revised carport and then the new deck. Since I don't have any, there's no walls to speak of. I don't have a wall section. And I think that's it, yeah, I believe that's it. That's all I have. I don't know if there's anything else I missed.
Do you have the comments from staff report?
Yes, I do.
Because they generally tell you some things,
I do have those.
and if you want to hit those before you turn it back over to us.
The conditions, is that what we're speaking of? I mean, am I supposed to go over each condition now, or is that really what I'm doing?
Only if there are some comments here that you want to.
Okay, yeah.
If you have any of those updated in your drawings today, otherwise we can just ask you questions related to those.
I see, so,
Okay.
yeah, the one thing is, you know, there's no mechanical going in, so I know they wanted to see the AC unit, so there's no AC unit right now that's going in. In the future, there probably will be, but not right now. Again, I'm not doing any fencing at the moment. In the future, I plan to. The infill of the siding must be woven. That's what I addressed. All the trim boards and everything, yeah, they're going to. Actually, I already have the siding. I've purchased the siding. All the trim boards are going to match the existing structure and the main house and everything. No window changes at the moment. No window sill changes. The door that I'm moving is in pretty rough shape, so I'm going to try to salvage that door, but if not, I'll go to somewhere, to another salvage place and get I think those are 5-panel doors that'll match. Again, no wall sections. Yeah, and as far as a pallet, like I said, it's existing siding, and that's it, really.
Right, we'll move on to the staff report then, Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. I think the applicant did go through most of the comments that the staff had. We just want to have a clear understanding that if siding is coming off and new siding is going on, and that affects the window trim or the door trim, that not be an afterthought and it be consistent with the references to the principal structure if there's none existing on the accessory structure. The request did generate based on a violation. That's why there's an existing structure that's in the photos that you looked at earlier. One of the reasons in the site plan that you see the shift in the carport portion of the structure and off the back for the deck slash balcony is because the degree of nonconformance has now been triggered to where it needs to meet the correct zoning setback of 3 feet. So that's why it's being stepped in on the new portions of the structure. That did not trigger any kind of compliance with the existing structure because it is already in place, has been there for, I think, since the inception of the property. We did have a historic picture that I believe was provided to you, but you can see that historically the accessory structure did have a covered area in front of it. So normally, without that type of photographic evidence, the staff wouldn't be in support of adding a carport in front of the vehicular doors. But with that being said, there is photographic evidence to show that. So based on that, the staff does find the application to be consistent with the Seminole Heights design guidelines per the plans dated December the 15th, 2022, and we are available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and open the hearing to public comment. If there's anyone who would like to come forward to speak either for or against the project, you may do so at this time. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and move on to commissioners asking questions, and we will ask.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I did want to just, there was a letter that was submitted into the record. You should have that from Mr. Dobbs. It's not what I would categorize as public comment, but erring on the side of transparency, I wanted to place it in your packets and let you know that the staff has evaluated these particular points that the gentleman presented, and we do feel that the case should proceed as is. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to commissioners asking questions, beginning on my left.
I guess I just had a couple questions. Why were you planning on moving, or why did you show you're moving the access stair and the door from one side to the back?
Well, I wanted a deck back there anyway, off the back of the unit, and the stairs right now are very rickety, so I'd have to replace them. So I'm just taking this opportunity to move the stairs to the back, since I'm gonna have to replace them anyway. And in my opinion, it gives a better view of the accessory structure from the back of the main house. You're not looking up into the stairs. Just a personal thing of mine.
Okay. And it was mentioned that if siding was coming off, that you'd want to make sure that the trim matched and all that kind of stuff. Are you removing the siding or replacing the siding?
Actually, that's a good point. I described that. So when I initially got this house, both the main home and the dwelling structure were covered in aluminum. So I did get an okay from the ARC to remove the aluminum. So I removed the aluminum from the main house and redid it, painted it, put the new trim up and everything. When I moved the aluminum from, when you move the aluminum, there are no corner boards or window trim or anything anymore. So I had to replace all of that. So I did that on the main house, and that's the situation I'm in now with the dwelling unit. I removed the aluminum, so there are no trim. So I've already purchased the siding, the wood siding from Rome Lumber. I haven't purchased a trim yet, but I get it from them, from Rome Lumber, so I get the exact same trim that's on, to replace that.
Okay, so the existing building does or doesn't have siding on it now?
It does. The existing it has siding, but there will, when I move doors and everything, there will be
Okay,
infills.
it has wood siding.
Correct.
On it now.
Yes,
But no trim.
for the most part, no trim.
Okay. I don't think I have any other questions right now.
Okay.
Commissioner Taylor?
It was hard to see when you were showing it because it was kind of fuzzy on our screen, but can you show us again what's there and from a demo perspective, what you're taking away, just so I can see the
Sure.
site plan, if you will, and how it all comes into play?
See, this shows up here at a good level. Do you have a pen I can point with? Yeah, thanks. Oh, perfect. Okay, so what's here now is this carport here that's out here. It shows right here. What's proposed is to demo that carport since it's not compliant, setbacks and so forth, and construct this smaller one with the correct setbacks. And then there's nothing in the back now, and that's where the deck will be.
Okay, so do you have any type of details as far as how those columns will orient underneath this carport?
Yeah.
I know you said you didn't have wall sections, but
Yeah.
some form of detail to show us what that's gonna look like?
Is something more detailed than the elevations here?
Well, if that's what you got, that's what you
Yeah.
got. So is that,
Okay.
what type of roof is that over that?
This is gonna be asphalt shingle to match the.
What about on the carport?
On the carport, yeah, the carport shingle will be asphalt shingle to match the ADU.
Okay, so it is gonna be asphalt to match the building, not this metal look that I'm seeing.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it is. Yes, it will be, for sure.
Shingles?
Yes, asphalt shingles.
What is your plan for, I noticed on the existing structure, obviously, you've got a lot of strapping and exposed that we can all see in the pictures. What is your plan with this new structure to, I mean, we're gonna have to have it for code reasons, but what is your plan as far as the details oriented to cover some of that?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that.
When you install that strapping, do you have any, will it be exposed or will it be covered with some form of trim?
The strapping for the carport?
For the wind strapping?
For the carport?
Yeah, so if you'll pull up the existing structure pictures, I don't know if that was from staff, just so he understands what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We call it hurricane strapping just for
I see.
ease of conversation, but. So you're gonna have what looks to be some flat straps that are running up and down those columns. Maybe that's not what that is, but then you've also, I did notice some other. So all that metal strapping that you're seeing that is holding, so there you go, there's a good picture.
Yeah. Yeah, that ideally is gonna be covered by, like, I don't know if it's called, like a fascia board or some trim.
Fascia's a good name. Now, will that material be wood as well, or will it be a fiber cement type board, like a Hardy?
I wanted to talk to the guys, to y'all about that too, because I would prefer, to use a Hardy because that's typically what rots and, what I'd be replacing, but if I couldn't, it would be, one by, just wood.
Okay.
But I would, and these posts will be boxed in as well. Just square boxed in with trim around the top and so forth. A lot like, actually, to match the front porch on the main structure now.
Does
I
it
think
state
that's-
on your plans what the pitch of this proposed roof
I think it's,
is?
it does.
looks to be less than a 3.
I can't read it from here, but I did read that somewhere. I'm sorry, when I was looking at it earlier on my computer, I had it blown up, and it
It's hard
shows,
for us to see as well.
it shows it there, but I cannot tell what it is in the moment. Where's my other one?
So while you're looking, the reason I'm asking is if it's less than a 312 as a builder, I'll tell you that the shingles will have a warranty. So that's why I'm asking what that roof material will be.
I see.
Because if you increase it, you're probably getting into your windows. But if you keep it flatter, you'll have to go with a different material.
Okay.
Well, they don't have to, they just want it more.
You just want, right. There
I
are
just would be
ways.
avoiding the
Correct.
warranty.
Yeah, I shouldn't use the word half,
Yeah,
but
that's a good point, too. I appreciate it. If it's less than a 3, you said? Yeah, okay.
I think that's all I've got for now.
Okay.
Commissioner Sutton?
I have no question at this time.
There are some existing garage doors,
Yes,
and are those garage doors going to stay, or?
yes, those are garage doors. Initially, I had them removed, but they wanted them back, and it shows that those existing garage doors are in place, so those will stay, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, because that, this doesn't happen, well, it happens a lot because there are lots of contributing structures, but I just kind of wanted to make it clear for the public that these accessory structures are not contributing, so we don't have the same kind of power, or even staff does not, it is not possible for us to hold your feet to the fire about certain things.
You see,
I appreciate the fact that you're leaving these garage doors here. That's a very good thing because it maintains that
Sure.
look in the neighborhood. And that you're willing to weave the siding in these things. And then you've made the adjustments that I was initially concerned about when I saw that your accessory building was originally right on the property line. And this is just, the lower floor is storage and the upper floor is used.
yeah, the lower floor is used as a workshop that I'm using now, and the upper floor, we have a son with disabilities, and that's why we bought this house, is that's where he will be residing, in the upper
Okay.
unit.
So, but there are, you're working on the place right now, and it may be good, even though you have not, according to staff, you haven't triggered any need to upgrade it.
No,
But
yeah.
you might want to look at that.
Okay.
Right? I mean, some of these accessory structures were really put together without a lot of care.
Yeah, I would like to, but my main focus now is to get this violation thing, but I want to take another bite at this and go back and do windows, and right now they have aluminum windows that are really, really bad, so I want to replace them, but I'm just trying to get past this first step here.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I only have a few questions. Are you intending on changing the hardware on the door that you're relocating?
Yes, I probably will be, but yeah.
Do you have any imagery to show us what you're
For
thinking
the
of?
hardware, I'm gonna hope to go down to, like Schiller's and try to find something that, as close as I can to what's there.
And lighting, are you introducing any new lighting anywhere? On the
there-
carport or on the walls?
They do call for lighting underneath the carport in the ceilings, so I'm just, hopefully I can just do recessed LED, in the carport.
Okay. And then, just as a note, you had said that you were not putting any mechanical units in now. But are there existing mechanical units?
There was a window AC,
Okay,
yeah, that's it.
okay. So in the future, when you reconsider, you will have to work with
For sure.
staff. And then fencing as well, we will more than likely see you again for that.
Yep, I plan on it.
Alrighty, I have no further questions. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to add a couple things. You just mentioned there that you're calling for recessed lighting in the ceiling of the carport.
Yes.
That implies that the carport has a ceiling.
It will have a ceiling, yeah.
What's that
A
ceiling?
flat, beaded tongue and groove to
Okay.
match the the porch on the front of the main house.
Excellent,
Yes.
okay. Also, could we put up that historic photo again? One thing that was
Oh, we might.
very, that it was very interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing that they found this photo. Huh. I don't know if it's a good thing for me, but it's,
Is, and slide it over so we can see the garage, or the carport, is that it has exposed and cut rafter tails protruding
Yes.
out the front.
that, it does have that, it had those details, were there at that time. The plan doesn't call for that.
Have you considered them?
I have, I'd love to do that. I'm gonna be doing a lot of this work myself, like I did on the main house. I would love to do that, yes.
I think that would be better than what I think we're seeing on the elevation, because the house has exposed rafter tails, and that would tie them both in nicely.
Yeah.
I think that would behoove the project.
Okay,
That's good.
yeah, I would love to do that.
That's all I have.
Well, that'll lead me to a question, because to me, that looks more like a pergola
Like a what?
type than a roof system. So my question to the applicant would be, would you entertain going with an open system like this rather than it being a covered?
We were like,
Oh, so this one, even though this one, I see what you're saying. That actually was covered. I know it looks like a pergola, but it did have a cover over it. It was watertight underneath it. Is that? what-
Okay,
Yeah,
so this was existing when you bought the house?
yeah, this was existing, and then they had a, that's not showing it, and that was basically just right, and then they had on top of it, they built like right over all of this, aluminum carport that was on top of that and then extended on beyond it.
Okay.
And then when I took off the aluminum, this one was just falling apart, because it stayed wet.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? All right, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal. If there's anything you'd like to add to your testimony, this is your opportunity to do so, or to rebut anything that we might have questioned.
No, ma'am, nothing at the moment.
Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing, and then we're gonna discuss the case.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome. So I wanted to talk about the last line of question about the carport versus the pergola thing. I agree, it would be so much lovelier to have something that looks more like a pergola, and you certainly could do it in a way that you could put like Lexan or something on it, so it has transparency, but it also provides that water, weatherproof kind of condition that you're looking for, most likely.
That was why I asked that last question, because, ultimately they have to be willing to be open to that, but
Yeah,
Right.
if it may be a trade-off that actually doesn't cost them any more money to do it one way or the other, as far as appealing to the eye. That picture, just, it goes with the neighborhood.
I agree, it goes with the house, actually, much more.
Yes, absolutely. Other than that, what they're going from to what they're proposing, I think it's a great idea.
I agree as well. We have to remember too that the majority of what we're seeing here today is a minor intervention brought about by a permit violation. They're trying to clear that deck. with the full intention of sometime in the future, a major renovation is going to be happening on this structure, which could involve the carport, could involve any one of a number of different elements. If they move in that direction, we're definitely going to see that again, and they will have the opportunity to revisit a lot of details and the feel and the costing and all the rest of that sort of stuff that would make up a final project. We're not in final project stage at this point in time.
However, the carport.
This is a Band-Aid.
However, the carport is going to be built. It's not like they're gonna build it and then rebuild it. I mean,
They could.
They're gonna spend the money, well, my sense is you're not gonna spend the money and the time and the energy and then do it again. So I think this is the moment to have any kind of discussion
True.
about its aesthetics and whether or not it conforms with the district and the primary structure.
I see the point as well, I really do. And I'm wondering if they're really prepared to either address that as a design element, when not a whole lot else is determined at this point in time, or are they willing to work with staff on the matter?
I just wanna, in what I heard here tonight, I didn't get the sense that if there's other work coming, it was gonna be tremendous in terms of aesthetics. I heard replacing doors and windows to be more energy efficient potentially down the line, adding in some kind of AC component to help with that. Maybe there's some building envelope beyond window and doors, but again, those sorts of things may or may not impact the exterior, right? What we have before us is a carport. It's going to be a tremendous impact. It already is. I mean, with the imagery of the existing non-conforming, that's already impacting both the aesthetic of the accessory structure as well as the primary, right? And I think we have to be mindful of the fact that even if it's done piecemeal, this component is going to have an impact and does have an impact at this time. And we can't consider that it may or may not be replaced in a future scope of work, right?
Correct.
And then also on top of that is the deck, right, at the rear, which is being added. I do think it is important how this is detailed and finished. And right now, I don't feel comfortable with the level of detail I saw in the drawings to represent it, one. It's kind of where I am right now.
Certainly the railing details for the balcony and the stair will have a major impact on the way that element appears,
Absolutely.
as well as the, of course, the choice of the exposed, cutting the rafter tails, and then the material on the actually used on the roof of the carport.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't think the carport is drawn particularly accurately or with any detail because of it's just not drawn given what the applicant described as the columns being wrapped to match the columns in the front of the house. If you look at the columns in the front of the house, they're rather nicely detailed, wrapped with multiple pieces and base and capital and all that kind of stuff. The exposed rafter tails would change the detail of it. And I understand we don't have that in drawing form, but if we put conditions in an approval to get this person out of the condition of being in violation.
Right.
And if we could put those conditions in as stated by the applicant in the
Right.
hearing, that they will expose the rafter tails, they want to expose the rafter tails, they are putting beadboard on the ceiling of the carport, they are wrapping the columns to match the front porch columns. I think if.
And the
I think-
fascia board.
And the fascia board, I think if we put those as conditions, I don't think I have a problem.
I agree. I think as long as we can be as specific as possible and do, state that the applicant and its designer need to update their drawings as per the
To-
hearing
to-
discussion
Right,
today.
and get them approved by staff.
Correct. So anybody got a laundry list started? Any other, points?
We really didn't go into the work on the proposed work on the front elevation.
Of the primary structure?
Yeah,
There's
Yeah.
nothing,
We
It's
got an
in our
elevation,
packet.
but I don't know what it states, or what it, oh, there's a porch addition that wasn't even discussed.
I need to reopen the hearing. Can we have a motion, please?
I move that the public hearing be reopened.
No, a second, please.
I'll second.
All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Fernandez, can you answer
Just
that
as a point of
question?
clarification, the request this evening is limited to the accessory structure and does not include any work on the front porch. That may have been carried over from the previous review, but this evening, correct me if I'm wrong, you're just.
Oh, yeah,
looking at
just, yeah.
accessory structure.
Just,
Just the accessory structure.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else staff related that we need to ask a question of anyone? Okay. Anything you want to add to the record? Because you do have another opportunity to speak.
no, not,
No, this time. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close it and then finish discussing the case.
Do we need to discuss anything relating to this letter in our packet?
It is more or less public comment, and you certainly can bring up anything you might have concerns over, but it is not testimony in terms of,
Right. And I've read through the email. It says, if the ground floor is converted into living space, well, it's not being. If this happens, then that happens. So this is proposing a whole bunch of what-ifs, none of which are actually happening. And all that this petition is for the remedy of the porch and the addition of a deck on the rear. But the deck on the rear and the addition of the new front carport, if you want to call it that, are being set back to proper setbacks. And now we're just discussing, I think, the details of it. But yeah, I read
Also,
through the
there's
whole
some
thing.
other concerns in here, and if indeed they were concerns, city planning, design, and construction will address those during the
We'll
permit
flag that as far
process.
as like whether structural.
So those are
engineering
out
might
of
be
our
involved.
purview anyway.
Right.
So.
I think that they have already addressed you'll notice in the drawings that we received, there was a difference between the survey and the drawings, and I didn't understand it until it was clarified here. But the whole carport and
Oh, I mean, in terms of
balcony
it moving
had to be
from the.
moved over.
Yeah, that was to get back into compliance,
Right.
as he stated it
Yeah.
earlier on in the testimony. Yes. Okay, any other points or entertain a motion by anyone? And remember, we need to be as clear as possible if we're putting
Right.
any conditions forward.
I do have an addition of one conditional item that needs to be
Okay.
brought up, and that's the nature of the door and hardware. It needs to be coordinated along with its encasing details.
I'm sorry?
Door and hardware.
You're just discussing,
Yes, we're still discussing.
right, but,
I closed the public hearing again. I did. I said, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing again.
So that's also a key element, I think, that needs to be, taken care of, as well as the coordination. of
The
that
lighting and the
stair-
hardware.
Well, there is no lighting except for the cans.
Well,
Nothing to
even
revisit.
if they are, they still need to be reviewed and approved by staff.
Then we have the stair and railings.
We have the detailing of everything, I actually think, because I couldn't tell from the drawings if they were complete enough, and especially for the carport, as we discussed, the column wrap.
Yeah, none of that is
The
detailed.
fascia, all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I had hardware, roof type, lighting, and deck details.
Yep.
Yeah, I have columns to match the box out. exposed rafter tails,
And
ceiling.
then drawings alignment with all comments received tonight.
That's a good one, that's a good one.
You're not gonna be able to see the roof,
No, not at that.
but
All right, I'd like to move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing. In ARC 22-179, for the address 5209 North Branch Avenue, with the following conditions: that the applicant wrap the columns to match the front porch box out, or front porch columns, that the applicant consider exposing the rafter tails to match the front porch, that the ceiling of the carport be beadboard to match the front porch, that the door and hardware be submitted for staff approval, that a stair and railing detail be submitted for staff approval, and the lighting be submitted for staff approval.
Also, the remainder of the detailing for the carport, you only mentioned the columns. We had the fascia board that we discussed.
Well, but the fascia is gone if there's exposed rafter tails.
but the way you worded the rafter tails was accepted.
And that all details for the carport be clarified to agree with statements made by the applicant and in this hearing this evening. Because based upon the fact the proposed project is consistent with the Seminole Height design guidelines and the City of Tampa for the following reasons, that it is appropriate and matches the scale and massing in the Seminole Heights Historic District.
Have a second?
I second the motion.
And sir, before we vote, do you understand the conditions put forth tonight? You can come forward.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And will I be granted a certificate of appropriateness which will allow me to get a building permit now?
It will allow you to move forward with that process, yes.
Okay, so that'll address my violation then? I think.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and vote. All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Once again, Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Moving on the agenda, the next case is ARC 22-255 for the property located at 307 East Amelia Avenue in the Tampa Heights National and Local Historic District. We'll begin once again with a photo essay. Do you have that on your monitors?
Yes.
Okay. Here we have the 1929 Sanborn map with the subject property identified in the green box. It is located on Amelia Avenue in between Jefferson and Morgan Streets. See a photo of, or a map of the Seminole Heights Local Historic District. Subject is pretty much squarely in the center of that district. Here's an aerial showing the subject property. This consists of a principal structure, and the request this evening is for a secondary principal structure in the rear. This property is just located south of the Tampa Bay Elementary, the former Michigan Avenue Grammar School. I have a photo of the existing contributing structure on the site, very nicely restored. Moving around to the side, you see the carport and the east elevation. It's another shot of the driveway. It says the subject property's abutting structure to the east. Says the west elevation of the principal structure and the abutting structure to the west. Looking down Amelia to the east, this is the perspective. If you turn around and look the opposite way, this is what you'll see. So again, I had mentioned the school. That's just to the north. There's the rear of the school. This is the rear elevation of the principal structure. Looking back towards the rear property line, there is an alley beyond the fence. Different perspective. You see one of the trees that have been a point of discussion. And then last two shots are of the alley, the view north, and then opposite south. When you met the last time that this was on the agenda in November, there was a motion to deny the variance that's being requested. The variance at that time was a rear yard setback reduction from 20 feet to 3 feet with an encroachment of 2 feet for eaves and gutters. That motion to deny ended in a tie vote, which under your rules of procedure results in an automatic continuance of the matter. The agent and owners determined that they needed additional time and requested a continuance in December to tonight's hearing. Since then, they have amended their application. Although they did advertise under the same advertisement for the variance, it has been, the reduction is now from 20 feet to 10 feet, which I'll let the agent review with you. So with that, we would require that the agent provide a complete presentation of the revised site plan for your consideration of the revised variance, and then you will move forward from that point with a decision on if the variance meets the hardship criteria and should be granted. The staff does not give staff reports for variance. It is a demonstration of hardship. So the applicant and agent should go through their hardship criteria that's provided to you and is available to them as well to demonstrate the need for the variance. And with that, I will turn it over to the agent and be available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dennis.
Hello, Commissioners. My name's Ernest Mueller. I'm the agent for the property owners. All right. As Dennis mentioned last time we were here, the variance request was for a 17-foot encroachment into the principal structure setback, because we're working with a principal structure setback, because they're asking, the property owners are wishing to build a second dwelling unit. This is, the property is zoned RM24, so they are allowed to build a second unit. In fact, the RM24 multifamily zoning district anticipates there would be a second dwelling unit on this property. Since that last hearing, the property owners took the commissioner's comments and questions. to heart. They met with city staff to discuss moving the proposed dwelling unit closer to the principal structure. As you are aware, or as you can see, there are two camphor trees that are causing the hardship on this property. There is a 54-inch camphor tree on this side of the property, and this is a 30-inch camphor tree. Both of them are requiring a 20-foot protective radius. Now, these trees, initially they were trying to push the structure back far enough so that it didn't intrude on this protective radius at all. And, you know, the city, these are a protected tree. There is a mitigation to them. The city code acknowledges the value of these trees, although the city can't stop the property owners from removing the trees. The city code, and they would have to pay the mitigation for removing those trees, but the city code is definitely acknowledging the value of these large shade trees by requiring that mitigation. So the property owners are doing everything they can to try and protect these trees. These are a natural defining characteristic of this property and this neighborhood. The neighbors do not want these trees to be removed. In fact, they are here again today, the neighbors to the immediate east and to the immediate west. This is their second ARC hearing. That shows you how important keeping these trees are to them. They also are supporting the project. So after we consulted with city staff, the property owners brought aboard an arborist to consult on this project so as to if they can move that structure forward and move it up to the point to where it is not, that the impact, the detrimental impact on these trees will be minimized. So as Dennis said, we have amended our variance request so that we are actually asking for a 10-foot encroachment into the setback, meaning that the rear of the structure will be 10 feet from the property line. And there's an alleyway that runs back there, as you're aware. I'm going to turn the presentation over to the project's architect, Ray Basham, who will talk to you about the structure's design and the impact on this variance request, and also talk about how the structure's design and new location are consistent with the historic fabric of the district and the neighborhood. After that, the project's arborist, Ricky Pederica, will come up and talk to you about the new location of the structure and mitigating the impact on these grand trees.
How do I get to the PowerPoint? Okay. My name is Raymond Basham. I'm an architect. I'm the architect of record for this project.
Sir, did you get sworn in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Since the last meeting, we did some investigating and some looking around, and we've following. Basically, we went out and found. We took like 1,000 square foot radius around the area to look for similar projects and to look for other issues that might come up. So we found information and also different structures that are the same, similar to what we're trying to pursue, which is a garage dwelling type of unit. Also look at that. So we have invested within that 1,000 square feet radius. We found at least 7 examples. All 7 of these properties are built in the 1900s. They're all over the 700 square feet, and they all do not adhere to the 20-foot setback. So I'll show you a few of those right now. This property is at 307 East France Avenue. It was built in 1902, and it's 898 square feet. The second one we found was, it's 2107 North Jefferson. It was built in 1927, and it is 12,000 square feet, or 1,200 square feet, excuse me. And then another one at 2206 North Morgan, built in 1912, and it is 1,000 square feet. There was another one at 401 Ross Avenue, which is 1056 square feet. It's also, is not, not within the 20-foot setback. And then the final one is at 305 East Ross Avenue, built in 1900, and it is, where's the square footage on this one? I don't see the square footage. I don't see the square footage on here. But anyway, there, I know that it was over 700 square feet. So in our opinion, these examples set kind of a precedence for that area, and that what we're trying to do is just falling right into line with what is already there. We did get comments last time about trying to maybe rearrange it, which we did take to heart, and went back to the drawing board, and we did do some more charrettes to figure out what we could do. We tried turning it, we tried tees, we tried different things, but none of those seemed to really work too well. The parallel ones, you end up with like a bowling alley, and the tees kind of separated everything, so the flow just didn't work very well at all. So we went back to the rectangle, and we figured if we pushed it back, and then if we could get within the trees but not interrupt the trees, that's what we were trying to do. So that's how we proceeded. And as you see from the site plan, that's what we're trying to do here. So we're having a 10-foot setback, and then we don't interfere too badly with the trees, and we can get that. Plus, with this opportunity with the 10-foot, it allows us to put a sort of a drive so we can not interfere with the alley as we back in and out. I guess I'll turn this now over to, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Morning, Commissioners. Ricky Pederica, Dark Moss, 308 East 7th Avenue. I've been sworn, Tampa Heights landscape architect, arborist. I was asked to, after the last hearing, was asked to review the case and consult on the preservability of the two grand camphor trees on site, which the owner wanted to preserve. And the latest site plan as depicted, I think reduces the amount of impacts to either canopy or either camphor tree by reducing the rear setback for this proposed structure. While the city code treats camphors as an exception because of their invasive status, that the code caveats camphors as being exempt where adjacent to environmentally sensitive areas, which is not the center of Tampa Heights. By being in this location, it is effectively deemed a protected tree in the code. As a protected tree, it's warranted mitigation, 4 trees per tree, with a recent code amendment for camphors passed by council in October last year. But beyond the code, as living organisms, they have their own biological requirements of space. And by shifting the building, while we had to shift the building closer because of the outcome of the last hearing, where the building's positioned now, results in only 2 small corner clips. And considering the remainder of the rooting area, over 95% of the rooting area has remained unaffected, and as part of the BLD, I will recommend some root improvement to mitigate the root loss where this encroachment's occurring. I think that this substantially balances the needs of the owner of providing the structure with the needs of the owner to preserve this tree. The owner and the city and the neighbors recognize the value of this tree. Even the comprehensive plan recognizes the value of mature tree canopy. Not all, notably multiple times mature, which is what these trees are. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude, or did you have more?
By and large, that's concluding this part of the presentation. Of course, we're available for questions.
Do you want to go over your
Certainly, we can
list?
go over the
Thank you.
hardship criteria. Number one being the alleged hardships, practical difficulties are unique and singular with respect to the property. Again, these trees, I think that's easily going to fall into there. It's created by these 2 grand camphor trees that were not planted by the property owners. Were not. One is on the eastern property line, the other is on the western property line, and they require a 20-foot protective radius to protect those camphor trees. Number 2, the hardship or practical difficulty does not result from the actions of the applicant, and I think that's a big one here. I think it's important to realize that choosing not to remove a defining, historic, natural characteristic of this property is not going to fall into the area of a self-imposed hardship. They did not plant these trees. They want to keep them. The neighbors want them to keep them. Choosing to not remove them is not going to be a self-imposed hardship. Number 3, the hardship or practical difficulty does, the variance, if granted, will not substantially interfere with or injure the health, safety, or welfare of others whose properties would be affected by allowance of the variance. In fact, I think the opposite's going to happen here. You'll see that we have the neighbors who very much, and when you'll have an opportunity to hear from them, they feel very strongly about keeping these trees. In fact, removing these trees will be detrimental and prejudicial to the neighbors as well as to the property owners. The variance is in harmony with and serves the general intent, purpose, of this chapter in the adopted Tampa Comprehensive Plan. We've shown that what the property owners are trying to do by placing this structure, locating it where it is going to be consistent with the fabric of this neighborhood and the district. It is not unique. Allowing the variance will result in substantial justice being done, considering both the public health benefits. Again, substantial justice. The neighbors, the property owners, and realistically, the city wants to keep these trees, wants to keep that canopy. And the variance, if granted, will allow development that is consistent with the design standards, compatible with the historic pattern and development of the historic district. We've talked about that. This unit, or this proposed dwelling unit, it's in an RM24 district. It's expected to have this second dwelling unit. The city as a whole needs additional dwelling units. This is going to be a good project for the property owners and for the city and for the neighborhood. And with that, we're available for questions.
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. So if you would like to come to speak for or against the project, you may do so at this time. I'm sorry, Mr. Fernandez.
Just one point of order. Stephen Eister with the City of Tampa Natural Resources is here. So once we conclude with the public comment portion, if you do have plans, although staff doesn't provide a staff report, we do have support staff here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. So again, if you'd like to come forward to speak for or against the project, you may do so at this time. And when coming to the microphone, please do state your name and your relationship to the project. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jim Lewis. I live at the adjacent property on the east, 311 East Amelia, my wife and I, and we've been, supporting keeping the trees, just because they're grand old trees. They provide shade for our yard, Daniel's yard, and the next yard over. They're really impressive. And so, I almost suspected if we said, okay, you got to take the trees down, we're going to do the 20-foot setback. It's really not in keeping with the feel of the neighborhood. You walk down that alley and there's structures, there's pins right up at the edges, and you look at my next door neighbor's house on the other side. It's built 1907. I think the setback may be 3 feet, and that's only because you had to get in there to build the house. And when they repainted it last year, they had to ask to come over and put the ladders in our yard because they didn't have enough pitch to actually go up and paint it. So a closeness, and I wouldn't say lack of setback, but we're a little more accustomed to being closer together there in the historic area. So once again, we'd love to keep the trees. I think it's the appropriate thing to do. And hopefully that'll be where we get to. So at any rate, thank you.
I second that. Patricia Lewis, his wife, and we fully support the trees and the design of the structure and the consistency with what you see in the rest of the neighborhood. After we left the last hearing, when we walked back home through the neighborhood, I just noticed how many were right up at the property lines in the alleys throughout the neighborhood, and I was quite confused about the outcome of the last hearing based on what I saw when I walked back, but we fully support it. We like the shade of the trees, and having the building back there is perfectly consistent with everything we've become accustomed to, so, thank you.
Good evening. Rona Thomas, 305 Amelia. I'm on the west side. And again, I'm in full support of the trees, hoping that you guys would go ahead and approve the plans with us having the trees there. For me, it's a great shade. I have planted a lot of stuff alongside the fence, and they have grown tremendously because of the shade. And I'm really hoping that the trees would stay, so to keep providing shade, and hopefully I can have my lemongrass, my bananas, and papayas next season. Thank you.
Closing the hearing, I'm sorry. Commissioners will begin asking questions. Starting on my right, Mr. Myers. I have the applicant, and the applicant come forward, please. Only if you have a specific question.
Okay.
They don't,
Yes,
they don't
Okay.
typically come and present.
oh, okay.
We ask.
I do have a question. Thank you for coming. What is the characteristic root mat of a camphor? Does it extend to the full extent of the canopy above?
So, yeah. Stephen Eister with Natural Resources. Are we talking about the roots? Is that
Yeah.
kind of- okay. So the roots on camphors are pretty extensive. Like the diagram here that Ricky's showing with the encroachment of 5 foot, that's pretty standardly allowed, especially with camphors. Their roots will respond fine. They'll probably grow back just as quick after the new foundations and stuff are in. And you don't really see them be impacted by a root pruning of that amount. So you shouldn't see any growth changes, anything like that.
So these have a root system kind of like an oak, in that there's just there's like some depth of root.
I would say these are more extensive than oaks, so they can take a lot more impact. So if I was reviewing this project, I'd be okay with the root pruning and the footer going in at that range.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I have no further questions.
Commissioner Sutton,
I have no question at this time.
Commissioner Taylor.
My question is for city staff again. Just for clarification, I wasn't at the last hearing, so if they wanted to take these trees down, what I'm hearing is they can, as long as they mitigate and plant other trees. Am I hearing that correctly?
Correct. So the goal is, we do want to preserve mature trees, but due to the type of tree that camphors are, the code allows them to be removed, but there is still a mitigation value associated with them, and they are still protected trees. But they wouldn't have to go through like a variance or something like that to remove a grand tree like this one is.
So based on your experience, seeing the plan as we have it, the footprint of this new building, if they chose to go that direction, do you think there's enough room left to replant that many trees and meet the requirement?
No. If they say they would get even 4 trees, this lot to have 4 trees put back in would be not responsible planting techniques. You may get 1 back on site. The rest would get paid into the fund. So the better option is the 2 mature trees, but it's how the code reads, is kind of how we're at.
That's all I have for now.
Mr. Prokop?
I have no questions.
Do we have anybody here from transportation? They had any comments at all?
No. Yeah, obviously, Mr. Marsh is not here. I did email Mr. Marsh to let him know about the change and moving it forward, and he did reply in an email that transportation had no comment.
Okay, all right. I do have a question, follow-up question to your architect, Mr. Basham, I believe it was, correct?
Just one point of clarification.
Yes,
just
sir.
To confirm the previous statement, Transportation did review the site plan, the revised site plan, and did not have any objections for the current configuration.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Basham?
Yes.
So you had a really nice, I like the graphic and the revisiting of existing conditions within the neighborhood. Were all of those subject properties, I believe it was 7, were they all within the district?
Yes, ma'am.
And did all of those accessory units have garages that were entered from an alley? The vehicles were entered from the alley?
I think so, ma'am.
Because it appeared to me that a few of them did not. So just comparing apples to apples, I just wanted to be sure about that. That's all I have for questions for that. Yeah, that's it for your, Mr. Basham, I'm sorry, you can sit unless
Thank
somebody
you.
else has a question. Mr. Pederica, I hope I said your name correctly.
You did, thank you.
I know it's Ricky, but I don't want, when you were talking about the tree and the pruning of the tree, what is the life expectancy of the camphors today? One's a 54,
I don't want
one's
to
a
guess.
30?
There's some I have on the ready. A camper's not one of them.
Okay.
But certainly longer than 5 years.
Longer than 5 years. And then what is the danger of the roots growing into the structure, the new structure?
With the footer they're probably going to have and the availability of other areas to root, for the roots to extend to, it's not a constrained situation.
Right.
And there isn't going to be utilities on that specific side based on the latest design, so there won't be moisture to go towards or air. In that case, it's not going to be as desirable to root into as the unaltered areas that there is still a lot of
Okay.
in the proposed design.
Okay. Thank you. That is it for my questions. Any other questions for anyone? Anyone?
No, for me.
All right, so you do have some time for rebuttal if you'd like to come forward and make any further comments or rebut anything that might have been questioned or said.
Just want to, again, ask the commission to please grant this variance. It's a very good project for this neighborhood and for the city overall. You even heard from the city's arborist, he felt that the best option was to keep these trees, these mature trees, rather than trying to replant or anything else. The hardship criteria is there. And again, the neighbors are supportive, especially the neighbors that are immediately impacted. So we will just ask that you grant this variance so we can move this project forward.
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and close the public portion of the hearing and discuss the case. Commissioners?
I just found it unique.
You found it unique?
I'm not sure that there truly are the hardships, but we have a choice of losing the trees or not losing the trees. And as staff, even, the arborist said, sounds like the neighborhood's for the trees. And even, he mentioned that, he would rather see the trees stay than replanted or paid into the fund, which I would say the neighborhood is in line with that thought process. But typically, as a board, we have to look at the hardships.
So I'm sorry, did you say you thought it was unique or not unique when you started your
I think it's a unique project in the sense that we're kind of between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. I don't know, I think I felt this way before another project.
I remember this project when it first came before this commission, and to my fellow commissioners, there's really no surprise on my part that I'm really not a big fan of granting variances. But from where we are today with this proposal and where it was, I do believe that the owner and his team have come together and pushed this to the limit where they both have their accessory dwelling and the trees for this site, to the point where all the parties, including the city themselves, are really kind of comfortable. Just as an aside, the RM24 zone as it currently is enacted by the city is made for, having accessory dwellings, particularly within our urban fabric. And it's always struck me as being kind of odd at how they have structured the zoning envelope and their setbacks, for sites that really cannot accommodate an accessory dwelling. So it's like, are they actually producing a kit of parts or a kit of permissions for a potential owner, or are they actually producing a hindrance for a potential owner?
Right. It's almost like the zoning setbacks need to be revisited outside of our purview, but,
Exactly.
if that's what you're trying to encourage.
I would love to see
You don't want to
that.
have everybody that wants to do this have to come in for an exemption to the setbacks, because almost every project would have to build an accessory structure of any size, and not have it, encroach upon the main front primary structure. You'd almost have to always come for an exemption. So I think the zoning setback is a difficulty that is not as well thought out as it could be.
In terms of these huge trees, this is not an unusual pattern. You can go all throughout the city of Tampa, the older neighborhoods, even on the small lots, and you'll see the same thing over and over again. One tree after another planted right there on the property line.
Right.
Straddling two properties, rendering individual pieces of property almost unbuildable, even if you wanted to replace a structure. And I'm just talking about anywhere in the city, never mind a historic district. The fact that these are grand and protected trees is an asset, not only to the neighborhood and to the owners, but also to the city as well too. And I think it's well worth the effort that these people have put through to have it both ways, keep the trees and have a compact accessory dwelling.
And I do think that since the last time they were before us, they actually made the access to the dwelling from the rear vehicular access safer for the neighborhood. And, you know, in my neighborhood, we still have active alleys, and we're seeing more and more access through the alleys for vehicles, and it's starting to cause some issues. So having just that little bit more space to allow for
That
some
sliver.
maneuvering before you enter the alley is certainly something that I commend. And, you know, the tree thing, yes, same thing, you know, my property. So I get the whole needing to work with the land and what it tells you you can and cannot do. And in terms of the canopy, you know, Tampa was the winner of America's Most Beautiful City for years because of the tree canopy. So I applaud the desire to maintain. So,
Well, and you choose to live in these historic districts for the homes, but also for the mature landscaping.
exactly,
That's a huge part of it.
100-year-old trees, yes.
You don't have that in other areas. So again, having seen before to now, you know, my previous comments, I mean, I do kind of stated where I feel like we are, but with that said, it has come a long way. And, you know, it sounds like transportation is good with the layout. So, you know, we've pushed this envelope probably about as far as it can be
I
pushed
agree.
without creating an issue for the trees.
Do we have a motion that we can entertain, or?
I move that the variance request for case ARC 22-255 for property located at 307 East Amelia Avenue in the Tampa Heights Historic District be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a 10-foot variance in the rear yard setback with an encroachment of 2 feet for eaves and gutters based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-114D of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances for granting variances as stated and the evidence provided in this public hearing, specifically that the 2 grand camphor trees merit preservation and that their locations predate the actions of the current owner.
May I ask staff, legal staff, was the statement of the 10-foot easement appropriate?
I would ask that you, Mr. Myers, if you read the.
Exactly that,
Right,
that's,
please.
okay, that the rear yard for a rear yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet with an encroachment of 2 feet for eaves and gutters.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, please state aye and indicate so by raising your hand.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations, and we'll move on to the CA portion. Mr. Fernandez.
Commissioners, we do have 25 minutes of their total allotted time remaining for the certificate of appropriateness presentation, so I'll ask that the agent come up and begin that.
Again, Ernest Mueller. I'm going to ask the architect, Ray Basham, to go ahead and make this presentation.
My name is Raymond Basham. I'm an architect of record for this project. This project is a garage storage dwelling type of unit, secondary unit on the rear of the property. The ground level will consist of a garage, obviously, and some storage, and a full bathroom for the tenant to use. Maintenance, like when they're doing the yard work. The second level is going to be a two-bedroom and a full bath with a kitchenette and a washer and dryer. We've been through the site plan, but the site plan here is has the 10, shows the 10-foot setback, and it's a rectangle. The stairs will be on the, sorry, I'm just gonna blow this up for you so you can see it better. Okay. The stairs is going to be on the, towards the house side, so it won't be viewed from the garage or from the alley. Where's the first floor? Okay. First floor plan, you can see that the garage is on the right-hand side. Storage will be on the left-hand side. And then the stairs on that. There'll be access from the house side through another garage or through a double door to get into the garage and the storage unit. The second floor is a two-bedroom dwelling with a washer and dryer stacked in the center of, as you come in, right there next to the door, and the kitchen is on the right-hand side, and then the bathroom is stacked above the bathroom on the first floor. The exterior will be consistent with the historical area and to match the existing structure. So it'll be wood siding, wood trim, asphalt shingles. I'm assuming it's single hung, so the double hung windows. The garage doors will be also in keeping with the structure. The south elevation, which faces the alley, same materials. The east end and the west end. The structure is consistent, will be a block first floor, a wood frame second floor, wood trusses, and shingles. There'll be a 16-inch overhang. And then this is the connection between the floors. The flooring will be I-joist most likely for the span, and a monolith footing. Perspective showing you in relationship to the main house and the secondary house. Another perspective view, and sort of an aerial view. And then, of course, the rendering. And this would be the view from the alley. The structure, this demonstrates the height, so we're not over the height limits. And this gives you an aerial view of the property. Do you have any questions for me?
Does that conclude your presentation for the CA portion?
I think so, yes, ma'am.
Okay. We'll move on to the staff report. Mr. Fernandez will come forward and give his report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. In reviewing this application, the staff does feel that it is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines with the following caveats. I'm not sure if I missed if there was going to be mechanical equipment, that the mechanical equipment be identified and any type of the method of screening be determined. The fencing, as you see in the rendering, has a certain type of placement. I'm not sure if transportation has reviewed that placement. I don't believe that particular placement is going to be acceptable, but the material and the location of the fence, I think we're going to need to look at in more depth. The overhang, 16 inches, I believe, is what was called out. That's a fairly minimal overhang for the scale of this particular structure. I would encourage a deeper overhang, perhaps 24 inches. The trim detail, as you can see in the renderings, the trim is somewhat of a picture frame. It doesn't have a sill identified, more of a contemporary framing approach, so we would want to get some clarity on that. I couldn't make out in the actual line drawings if that was the same detail or not. Window and door selections, something that obviously is going to have to be provided. And then the more general concepts of lighting and hardware also. And with that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. At this time, if there's anyone who would like to come forward to speak for or against the project, you may do so at this time. This would have to just be with the, considering the design. Okay, then we will go ahead and we will ask questions, beginning with Mr. Taylor.
Well, let's go through this list first. So is there going to be any mechanicals as a part of this project, and if so, where are you planning to put them?
Yes, sir, there'll be some mechanicals. We're anticipating putting them in the rear area by the stairs.
Can you point to it, and just so we know in the record?
Somewhere in here. I don't know if I can.
That's no.
Use your cursor,
Yes.
please, thank you.
Where is it? There it is. You see that?
Okay. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
All right, so basically,
They'll be out of sight of the alley, yes.
okay.
And as far as screening, we're going to do landscaping.
What, I saw the illustration of your fence proposed. Is that in fact what you're wanting to use? A dog ear style wood fence, or?
It's a little bit of open to.
I'm sorry, could you state your name?
I'm sorry. I'm Daniel Perdomo. I'm the homeowner, along with my wife. I've been sworn in.
Okay.
Really open to maybe something similar to what we also have in the front of the house, which is more of a open picket fence. We are concerned a little bit about maybe safety and trespassing from the rear alley. There recently have been some break-ins, so we'd rather keep some privacy and security.
Well, all we're asking for this exercise is what you're wanting to use in this particular instance. And then also on the site plan, just show us where you're proposing to place it.
Understood. Yeah, I think, and working with Ray and this rendering, this sort of shows where we would like it, where we would like to do. And we can certainly do that in plan as well, show that in plan.
And by looking at the pictures, it looks like on your front elevation of your primary structure, you may already have a fence somewhat like this. Is that correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
Now, on the site plan, or on that aerial, can you show us where you're planning to run the new fencing?
Sure. Let me go on the site plan. So, perhaps a reasonable setback clearance from the, is it a driveway aprons? Just returning back to the house, so there's a clearance from the driveway of, 3 to 4 feet of some sort, perhaps. So just property line, tied to the property line, then just return back to the building. Maybe here, it may look a little bit different, we go a little wider, and then just close back. Yeah, we're,
Probably allow at least a couple feet on each side of the driveway before we put the fence in.
Okay. The next comment is referring to the overhang.
Yes.
I'm sure you heard Mr. Fernandez mention
We could go to
16
2
versus
foot, that's not a
24.
problem.
You have a problem? Okay. Have you chosen your windows and door styles at this time?
we have looked at this type window, obviously Florida product approved and impact rated, but also in keeping with the same look that we have on the primary structure.
So it looks to be a 1/1, no divided, okay. What is your ideas on creating a seal for these windows? And as far as recessing this window back into the framing itself to create that shadow line more in line with what you would see on the historic primary structure?
We could do that.
Yeah, we can do almost identical to, or pretty similar. They have to, some of these pieces are sort of custom pieces, but really use some of those wood
We're trying to match
seals
the
that-
house as close as possible.
from the original house or the main structure.
You mentioned wood when you were talking about the siding and the trim boards and some of the other materials, but then it shows hardy and/or, other styles of fiber cement board. Which
It'll be-
material are you planning
It'll
to
be
use?
hardy board.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be hardy. But as you know, sometimes hardy they don't have like the historic sills, so those will have to
Those
source.
you'll have to build.
Wood, yes, sir, those will have to build, yes, sir.
Do you have any hardware and lighting samples to show us?
Yes, sir. This, start with the lighting. This is some of the lighting we liked and we have seen. It's as close to as original as some of the historic stuff we've seen.
What are you planning to use for your soffit? If you use fiber cement, what type of look at there? Are you thinking smooth? Are you thinking a beadboard look, or many other options? But if you're going to widen this soffit to 24 inches, obviously now it's going to be something that you more predominant. You're going to see it.
Yeah, when you step into our porch, it's actually open with the rafters, and then it does have the beadboard in between the rafters. I particularly like to maybe stay with that look where we can. Ray agree with me, and
Yeah, we can do that.
we think like we could do that. We prefer to do that.
And the last question I've got just refers back to the stairs and the railing system. Do you have any sort of detail to show us for that?
So those would be interior elements. I don't know that I have picked that out yet, but that stair runs, inside the,
The stairs is inside, so the railing's not gonna
Yeah.
be exposed.
yeah.
Okay, I thought I saw an extra, I'm sorry. The trim around the windows, once you add this seal, are you still planning on going with this picture frame style trim?
Yes, sir.
That's the plan?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Looks like a 1x4.
That is correct. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing we have on the main structure.
Okay. All right, that's all I've got.
Any other questions? Mr. Myers, Mr. Sutton?
Generally, this is outside our purview, but I noticed that in the interior, you have a closet can we look at the second floor plan? You have that, you have the stair coming up from below. It seems like there's the potential perhaps for a closet over the stairway,
Underneath the stairwell.
No, on top of it.
In the bedroom area, possibly.
In the bedroom.
Yes.
Oh,
In the upper left-hand corner.
right here. Yeah, there's a possibility to do that, I guess.
You have that long wall, but you're gonna have to put a bed in there somewhere, obviously. There's that long wall, but you're
Understood.
taking that up with closet, so then you're gonna
Understood.
flip it on the other side.
Correct. Yeah,
To be kind of next to the door there.
I just picked up on that. Thank you.
Sure.
I'd like to follow through with a related item to that stair. You have a number of entrance points into this building. Into the stair going up, we have the double doors going into the garage. You have the garage doors, and they all have a relationship to the ground. Right now, it's dirt. Okay, what are you doing with pavements, and how are you planning on dealing with that?
Yeah.
Obviously, you have the apron at the driveway. What about, your stoops or ground planes where you have your door entrances?
Yeah, we I don't know where that, we've talked it over with Ricky, who was just here earlier, or landscape. We're in the process of developing that. I actually like the idea of like more of gravel. This is a little bit soft. It allows a lot of water to permeate. But yeah, it's still in process.
So that's another coordination item. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Prokop?
I think all my questions have already been touched upon.
Okay. I'm just gonna review a couple of things, because I think you've flipped through a couple of things, but I don't think you actually highlighted them. Hardware?
Oh, I think there's a photo of that.
Okay, and then the doors that's for the ground floor door that's entering into the stairway, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And then what are the double doors and the garage doors? So will they have true lights at the top? They will have lights?
They will have lights at the top.
And the garage is?
And the
as
garage
well?
itself, yes.
Okay.
It's an online image, but I guess it should have been painted black, but rather
Yeah,
shown it in a
it's
more
hard when you put it on the
translucent.
white on white.
Yeah.
That is it for my questions. Any other questions?
I just got one last one regarding the lap siding. Have you put any thought to which size siding you're using as far as what we'll see?
Yeah, and there's a slide. So right now, we have,
It's the standard hardy plank layout.
So they
Lap
make
siding.
this in 7 1/4, 8 1/4. maybe even
The-
more,
the-
but
I think the 7.25 is more like 6.5 or.
once it's installed, you're gonna lose basically an inch of whatever size it is. And that's the reason I'm asking, because that's what we're gonna see,
Yeah,
and so I'm just kinda
yeah,
curious.
so at least, our goal is that it dimensions the same thing as the primary structure, and that is, exactly, 6 inches.
Okay. Thank you.
We'd prefer that it not match exactly the original historic.
Well-
I just want to point that out. If
I also want to point out there are various camps on that one, but we highly encourage you not to mimic everything because it is new.
yeah, not to copy everything, because then nobody knows if it was original or,
Some people do such a great job that people don't know unless they're learned in architecture history.
Well, I've learned a lot, I want to say, from my first time here. I was very lost, and I want to take this second just to quickly thank all of you. It's been a process. I've made some good friendships with Ricky, who actually happens to live in the neighborhood, and Ray has been very helpful, so thank you all for this.
There's
Really
a lot of
appreciate it.
detail in it,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
and that's what makes and breaks, a project very much like this.
Any other questions for?
I want to go back one more item. That's the roof eaves.
Is this a question for the applicant?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So you're considering extending that, correct? Did I understand that correctly?
Expanding or extending what?
Your roof eaves.
Yes,
Yes.
you're asking for them to be at least 24.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, if I recall correctly from your drawings, you had intended to have some sort of if you will, a flat soffit panel.
Yes, but we can change that to match the house.
It sounded like the owner was seeking
Yeah.
something more like
I prefer for it to be open.
exposed rafter tails with
Yeah.
tongue and groove between, correct?
Yes, that's,
Okay, I just wanted to clarify,
Yeah, and
that whole
I like that
situation.
look. It's prominent in the neighborhood too, so we can certainly do that.
Yeah, once you do that, I see you had vented soffits, so you'll just have to accommodate for, which there's many things on the market to do that, so, I'll just point that out.
Yep, that's
But
it.
your architect knows that.
yes,
Yeah,
we'll take care of that.
and for that matter, the finish can be between the rafters or just on the rafters.
The,
Any one of a number of different ways of looking at this.
I'm assuming we're gonna put it between the rafters, because you want the rafters exposed, so the rafters will come down and then we'll put the tongue and groove up in there.
Very good, thank you very much.
Any additional questions for the agent or the applicant?
I have none.
All right, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal if there's anything you'd like to add to the record.
Anything else? No, I think we're fine.
Thank you so much.
Thank
We'll
you.
go ahead and, yes,
One point
Mr.
of
Fernandez.
detail, just, with the discussion on the siding, I just want to reinforce that smooth hardy is the preferred siding. I saw some detail about cedar, the faux cedar look, so just want to make sure we understand that.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and close the public portion and discuss the case. Thank you.
I did not come here.
I'm sorry?
It looks pretty straightforward. I mean, they answered most of the questions, and it sounds like they're more than open to work with staff on a few of the items that need to be clarified. I mean, it's a pretty simple project. I know it wasn't simple getting here, but
I agree. I think as long as we can get some improvement in the detailing in the walls for the window installation, especially at the second floor, to achieve some of that shadow line.
As well as the doors too, for that matter.
Oh, agreed. Yes, yes, yes.
well, and it looks like, I mean, I don't see a dimension even on this detail that we're looking at here, but it looks like the walls may already be a 2x6 potentially, which obviously helps accommodate that, but.
yeah, There's no dimension, but they are a triple
Right,
header.
there's a triple header.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
interpreting.
There you go.
But the details need to be revised in order to accommodate that,
All of the commentary and the windows.
that aesthetic,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, we got the doors and we got the windows. Now we're looking at placement in the wall and the detail trimming that goes
Right.
around that.
I mean, ideally, we would get that, you know, in the hearing,
That we don't have it here.
that we don't have.
Well, actually, what we do
We
have is
have
what
our
we see here.
details, but they're not necessarily conforming with the aesthetics within the historic district.
Yeah.
So we got what we asked for, but not necessarily,
But can't we state that?
yes, we can, yes, we can. Any other points of consideration, for consideration?
We have the fence coordination.
Well,
We have a good idea of what.
we have a few things that weren't indicated on the drawings that were stated in fact for the record. They just need to be recorded on the drawings correctly.
Yeah.
And the
That would
fence
be the
placement.
mechanical, that would be the screening of the mechanical, that would be the fencing,
Correct.
right?
And the fencing is also gonna have, there's gonna be, transportation's gonna have something to say with the view
Right,
lines out of a
but that's
garage
not
into
part
an
of
alley.
that's not part of our,
But placing where the fencing's going is.
well, exactly, but I'm saying that transportation is going to, it's
Alter.
a matter of fact, that's part of the permit process.
Right, they're gonna move that fence.
Right.
And I have a coordination item for pavements.
Yes, site improvement. Any other points? We can entertain a motion at this point? Mr. Myers, you look eager.
No, I'm not eager, but, not on this one, but I'm sure that I will get assistance. And
No one will leave you hanging.
okay. Move that the variance request for, or no, sorry.
Wrong page.
Yes, wrong page. Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC number, oh dear,
22-255.
oh, it is 20, okay, for ARC number 22-255 for the property located at 307 East Amelia Avenue in the Seminole Heights? Is it Seminole?
Tampa Heights.
Oh, in the Tampa Heights Historic District. Because based on the finding of fact, the proposed,
With the following conditions.
with the following conditions.
Thank you.
That the applicant shall provide additional information to staff for the overhang detailing and increase the overhang to 24 inches. To coordinate the details of the doors and windows, to coordinate the locations of the mechanical equipment and its screening, fencing, and site paving. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons. That this new construction maintains the proportions of buildings within the district. Its setback is consistent with other historic examples, and the site coverage is also consistent with the neighborhood.
Before we second that motion, I'd like to amend the condition regarding the placement or the detailing of the doors and windows, that they be coordinated such that they be inset within the wall openings to provide a more historically appropriate shadow line effect.
Do you accept that amendment?
Yes, I do.
We have a second?
I'll second.
And then, sir, if you want to come forward, either one or both of you can come forward. Do you understand the conditions that were set forth?
I do.
With the motion? You do? Okay, thank you.
Thank
Okay, and then those who, I forget what I had to say.
I will second that motion.
I think we already had a second. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
And the motion carries 5-0. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
Hit it out of the ballpark today. We are adjourned for the evening.
Thank you.